Can you become trauma bonded in a situationship? I have so many clients who come to me with this same question and who are feeling so badly about themselves. They feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed because they're in a situationship and they're feeling like they're trauma bonded, but they think because they're not in an official relationship that that term or that experience doesn't apply to them. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely, you can become trauma bonded in a situationship. So let me tell you a little story about my experience with trauma bonding in a situationship. So I was in an abusive relationship. This was many years ago. But prior to getting into an official relationship, I was in a situationship with this person. It was very unclear what was going on. There were really no talks about what we were looking for, how we were feeling. I was just in this person's world, in this person's orbit. So I was in this situationship for a while with this person. And what a lot of people don't realize is you're actually more likely to experience a trauma bond in a situationship versus a relationship because of the uncertainty inherent in a situationship. You don't know what's going on. You don't have that security of this is a relationship. So all of that uncertainty makes it very easy to feel trauma bonded in a situationship. So anyway, back to my story. So because we really didn't talk about what was going on with us, we didn't have any talks about what this was or how each other was feeling, there was so much uncertainty. Now, the way trauma bonds work is you are bonded through emotion. And the emotion in a trauma bonding situation is primarily negative. So when there's a lot of anxiety in a situationship, when there's some pain that's happening because maybe you're feeling unworthy or not good enough because it seems like this person isn't choosing you or doesn't fully want to be with you, it's super easy for those emotional bonds to form, even though it's not an official relationship. So that's what was happening in my prior relation. Well, before I got into that relationship, there was so much uncertainty and so much pain that I was going through that even before we got into an official relationship, I was actually trauma bonded to this person. What also makes it even more likely that you can become trauma bonded in a situationship like this is the emotional experience that you can have in these types of relationships. They can become very addictive. Because of the off and on nature of a situationship, there really isn't time to feel secure with somebody. And so the fact that you really don't know what's going to happen, maybe they're really into you at one moment, and they're kind of cold and distant the next, and you're like, what is this? What's going on? That hot and cold, that off and on, that has been scientifically proven to create a very addictive dynamic. And that is also part of the trauma bond. It's being in a situation with somebody where it feels like you almost can't leave, where you feel drawn to this person who makes you feel uncertain or anxious or unsafe. That's the addictive dynamic. That's the trauma bond. And again, when you're in a situationship where there's not a lot of certainty, it's very easy to experience that kind of dynamic. So if this is happening to you, if you're in any sort of engagement with somebody, it doesn't even have to be a situationship. It can be even a more ambiguous experience with somebody. You can still become trauma bonded. You can become trauma bonded in a friendship or with a family member. It doesn't have to be an official romantic relationship for there to be that emotional attachment that keeps you connected to this person like sticky glue. So here's the thing. If you have a history of addictive relationships, if you have a history of trauma in your past, if you have a history of being in painful relationships, I actually don't recommend that you get into a situationship. Now, you might get in one by accident, but as soon as you realize you're in there, I do recommend you cutting it off because of the fact that it's going to be very easy for you to become trauma bonded in an ambiguous situation like that. In a situationship where there aren't many clear boundaries, you don't know what's going on, maybe they're here one day, they're gone the next, that's what makes it super easy for you to fall into a trauma bond in a situationship. So I tell my clients, if this is you, be really clear up front about what you're looking for. Say, I want a relationship if you want a relationship. It doesn't mean you want one immediately with them. It just says to them, I am interested in dating for a relationship. Because if that's not what they want, then they can take themselves out and move on to someone else. If you're not clear, that's when it also gets very easy to fall into a situationship. So you want to be really open. If you're online dating, put it on your profile that you want a relationship. And if you're just meeting someone in real life, have that conversation relatively quickly. And it doesn't have to be super serious. It could be very, very casual, like, hey, so what are you looking for out of dating? And you will scare off people who are looking for a more ambiguous situation, but that's good. That's what you want. You want to scare away those people because they're not going to be right for you. That's just one of the strategies that I teach my clients to go from bad relationships to healthy love. So if you want to learn more about how to find that healthy love and avoid situationships, check out this video here.